Hello again, and welcome to Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts, and today we're going to talk about how long your giving ask should be. Now, when we recently ran our Craft Your Ask challenge, where for 3 days we worked together on the Marketing with Purpose Facebook group to craft our year-end fundraising asks, a lot of us were reading each other's work and going, whoa, that is really long. And then I had a lot of people ask, well, how long should it be? And so I wanted to address that in this podcast today. First, I want to let you know that all the things that you have to say and the stories that you have to tell, I realize that they take time and they're important. They're important to you and they're special, and that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be told. But we also have to put ourselves into the shoes of our donors and understand that their time is very valuable too. The most important thing and the first trick to getting people to donate is to get them to read or to listen to the message. And so if we can be respectful of their time, then we're much more likely to get the outcome that we want, which is a donation. Now, I know that there has probably been a time in your life, in your professional career, where you have emailed somebody and you've given them a list of 6 things that you needed from them, right? And they're all kind of living in paragraphs. And they only responded to one thing, like either the first or the last thing on the list. And this is an example of an email that was probably just a little bit too long. It's not that you didn't need all those things from those people. It's that they didn't pay attention long enough to be able to pick out those individual elements and deliver them back to you. Could have been a formatting challenge. Maybe too, like one thing that we do often in our office is that we break it into multiple emails so that way we can keep each specific thing separate, especially if somebody has a super short attention span. But then there's also people that we work with that have an amazing ability to work through a to-do list. And so if we give them a to-do list, they just work from top to bottom and they get it all done and they're great at communicating through it. And part of that's just knowing your audience and knowing who you're working with. But then also on the flip side of it, we've all gotten emails or letters, like, you know, those year-end letters that your aunt sends you that are in like 8-point font that are single spaced so she could get it all on one page. And you're like, oh my gosh, you actually want me to read this thing? And you have to get out a ruler so that way you can go down line by line to actually read this cotton picking letter. And I have gotten messages on Facebook Messenger where they were so long that I had to copy them out and paste them into a Word document and format them to even read them because it was just so incredibly overwhelming. And that, my friends, is absolutely not the way that we want our donors to feel. We want them to want to read the message that we're sending to them, to be willing to do it. Because like I said earlier, that first trick to getting people to donate is to get them to read or listen to our message. So I'm going to hop on into my general guidelines and also some tricks to help you judge if your giving ask is too long or just right. You're on a mission and you just need more people to know about it. And whether you're brand new to marketing or a seasoned pro, we are all looking for answers to make marketing decisions with purpose. I'm Monica Pitts, a techie, crafty business owner, mom, and aerial dancer who solves communication challenges through technology. This podcast is all about digging in and going digital. I'll share my marketing know-how and business experience from almost 20 years of misadventures. I'll be your backup dancer so you can stop doubting and get moving towards marketing with purpose. I have just one public service announcement before we get started. And I'm calling it a public service announcement because I really believe that some of you guys would absolutely benefit from this particular service, or rather thing. Maybe we'll call it a product. Either way, so really what it is a year-end giving email schedule and templates. You can shave hours off your to-do list with this complete set of fill-in-the-blank year-end giving email templates. And they even come complete with an on-demand training video on best practices for sending your emails. So hop on over to makecreate.com/year-end emails and download them right now for $7. And with that out of the way, let's get to our episode. So I know I already said this once, but maybe twice, but I'm totally going to say it again. So the first trick to getting people to donate is to get them to read or listen to your message. So we need to put ourselves in their shoes. And this is where it's really important that we understand who our donors are, because they are our audience. So we need to consider them. Like, who are they and what are they doing right now? What are they going through? Many nonprofits are trying to reach a younger audience and people with kids. And those people are very busy human beings, right? And so when you're communicating with busy, successful people, realize that to them, time is their most valuable asset. They will do anything for time. Well, I shouldn't say anything. That's a little, grandiose, but we need to be respectful of their asset of time by making your ask a length that they're willing to dedicate the time to read. For example, I know that right now I'm really busy, and so I'm not even listening to a podcast that's more than 25 minutes long. Like if it's 15 minutes long, I'm like all in. If it's an hour long, I have no interest. I'm not going to do it. So it's just because this is a really busy time of year for me. So think about your donors. Do they have kids? Are they buying Christmas presents and getting ready for the holidays? Or, like all these different things, right? Even just the changing over of the seasons and cleaning out kids' closets and then feeling like you've got all these leaves to rake, all these things that they're doing in their lives, right? So I think I've probably talked about that long enough, right? Because I know you're busy too. So I'm going to move on to the next point. The next thing to consider about your audience is, do they know you or do they not know you? People that you know will allow you to have a longer conversation with them. Like those are the people that are going to come to your galas and they're going to spend hours with you and they like to hear your message. And then there's the people that you might not know yet. And within every set of donor data contains multiple different types of people. You have the people who are very invested in your cause, who know you. You have the people who don't know you as well. Maybe they just went to an event. And then you also have people who volunteer with you, but maybe haven't donated yet. So all of those people have a different degree of knowledge about what you do and why they should be giving to you. So think through what you're saying to each one of those people and ask yourself, is this something that will stick with this human being? You may have multiple different asks. Now, one way to see is if you have them segmented in your email list, you can look at your email open rates to understand what email subject lines are going to catch the attention of your audience. You can also look at who is interacting with the Facebook posts that you're making and see, oh, well, those are mostly volunteers or those are mostly donors, right? And kind of gauge that. Now, my general length rule, and you can totally take this with a grain of salt, right? Based on what I just said. If you know people really well, they're willing to have a longer conversation with you than the people you don't know. So if you're just going to sit in the middle, I'd say give them 3 paragraphs, maybe 90 seconds or less worth of content to consume. And that is a good length to try to hit with especially your emails. Your letters can be a little bit longer. 1 page, limit that letter to a page if you can. If you need to continue telling the story, you can invite them to go to another place to read it or watch it. You can also give them a supplemental piece of content within the letter that you send to them. Just because you send them a letter doesn't mean it just has to have 1 piece of paper in it. You can have 1 piece of paper that tells a story and has some pictures in it and is fun to look at and read. Like, for example, I got a year-end donation letter from Alternative Community Training, which is called ACT, and they're in my community, and they had a letter, and then they also had what your donation can do. So they had 2 different pieces of paper, and what your donation can do was this pretty designed piece of paper explaining to me what each level of donation could do for their organization. So they didn't try to just put that all in one document. They separated it out, and you can do the same thing with your year-end giving letters as well. So after you've gotten your letter put together, I want you to ask yourself, if you received this letter or if you received this email with that much text, would you take the time to read it? Does it look overwhelming? Make sure that there's space in between the lines and it's not super teeny tiny, right? We want people to look at it and not think, oh my goodness. We do not want it to be like that Christmas letter that you don't want to read, right? And then if you are going to be saying this to people, like if you're calling them on the phone, then I want you to read your script aloud and I want you to record yourself and look at how long it takes you to say it. You can do the same thing with your written stuff as well. So read it, see how long it takes you to say it, because these people are probably going to read slightly faster than what you speak, but that's another gauge to the amount of time that people are willing to invest listening to your story. Now, as you're reading it, think to yourself, do you feel like you're reading for a really long time? Because if you feel like you're reading for a really long time, then it's just too long, right? And as you're listening to your recorded voice saying it, be cognizant. Like, did your mind drift or did you stay engaged? Because sometimes, even though I know the content that I'm talking about because I just said it, I find my mind drifting when I'm listening to these pitches that I'm making, for my products. So keep that in mind. Like, be present as you are editing your own content, and you can be a really good judge just personally as to whether or not your content is too long. Another thing I like to do is to ask somebody who will give an honest opinion to listen as well, and then ask them the same questions. So I'll call up Stacy on the phone. So she's not in front of me. She can't see my face. I'll call her up on the phone and I'll say, hey, here's my pitch, and I read it to her. And she goes, okay, that's too long. And so that's awesome. I'm so thankful that she's willing to say that to me. But, and just talk through it with them. Are there things that they found more valuable or less valuable while you were talking? Are there things that weren't clear to them that maybe you could take out because it might not be the best example that you could use with your audience? I also find that as I listen to myself say my pitch, there are times where when I'm reading it, it makes a lot of sense to me, especially if I'm explaining statistics to people, like using data to tell my story. But then when I listen to it, I don't have that same impact. Like, I don't feel it that same way as when I'm reading it. And so if you just go through this exercise of reading the thing that you wrote aloud, reading it and listening to yourself say it, then you will find all kinds of things that could be done better or differently to better communicate with your audience. It's just kind of consuming it on all levels, right? Looking at it, how do you feel in your gut? Is it too long? Do you want to spend the time? And then listening to yourself say it and be like, okay, did I follow that? Did it resonate with me? Is my mind drifting? Is it too long? And then if you do find yourself drifting or you feel like it's just too long, then make sure that everything that you have in your ask is on topic, because sometimes we want to have multiple types of examples or we're kind of drifting away from our point. And in that case, what you may have done is just created 2 asks instead of 1. And so you can take that thing that you've created and you can roll it into a different conversation with somebody, a different way to ask for a donation. Remember back to those audiences that we talked about at the beginning. There are going to be different ways to ask for a donation that will work best with each of them. So if what you're finding is you're trying to cram it all into one because you need to make examples for each of them, then what you really need to do is just break it apart into smaller ones and deliver it to each of those audiences individually, so that way you can capture their attention and speak to the thing that is most interesting to them. So there you have it. These are my general guidelines and tricks that I use to judge if a giving ask is too long or just right. Really, really think about those people that you're talking to. What are they going through right now? And how long is their attention span? What is their relationship that they have with you? Do they know you? Do they not know you? Do they know you a little bit? Look at data that you have at hand, like your email open rates and your social media, to make sure that you understand what information is going to catch the interest of what part of your audience. In general, you're going to make it 90 seconds and no more than 3 paragraphs long. Give lots of space. When you look at the letter or the email, ask yourself, would you read it? Does it seem overwhelming? Record yourself. Listen to yourself. Give that same talk to somebody that you know that will give you an honest opinion. And then if it's too long, just look for the times where the topic breaks, where you start swaying from the original topic, and then break that into multiple different asks. And that's all. Now, before I let you go, I want to remind you one more time about the opportunity to download the year-end giving email schedule and templates for $7. Now, you know that you need to send year-end giving emails. And actually, maybe you don't know, because some people think that emails are super old school. But I want to tell you what I know. My company, Make Create Design, is the marketing arm for Como Gives, which is our community's year-end, month-long online giving campaign. It supports 142 nonprofits. It's ran by the Community Foundation of Central Missouri. And I know that 1 in every 6 email visitors donates, but only 1 in 20 social media visitors donate on comogives.com. And I also know that the average donation for an email is $273, but the social media visitors only average 107. That is 134% more. So I figure we all need more donations. So we need to lean into what works. So lean into email this year. Just give it a try. Send these emails to your supporters. Ask them for donations the good old-fashioned way. I mean, isn't that weird that I just said emails old-fashioned? Either way, if it is to you or if it's not, these will really help you get started. You can just fill in the blanks and copy paste, and you'll be on your way to more donations this year-end giving season. Download them now at Mayecreate, MAYECREATE.com/year-end emails. And that, my friends, is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts. Now, go forth and market with purpose.